There are courts in the very centre of Birmingham where filth accumulates on filth, where courtyards are so many acres of stink, and where doorless privies face house doors and make decency impossible, and where it is a danger for a policeman to enter after dark. There were about 20 boys standing together at the top of a gullet. One of the boys called out, "Here, Kirkham." A witness noticed the prisoner steal around behind Kirkham and, throwing an arm around him, stuck him in the neck. He called out, "Murder, I'm stabbed." Another witness saw a boy staggering about in the middle of the road with a knife in his neck. The witness pulled the knife out and assisted the boy to hospital. The Peaky Blinder. This product of poverty, squalor and slum environment was a terror to respectable people 40-odd years ago. He was also a terror to the police. He went in pairs along Summer Lane every Saturday night, but he never molested any member of my family. Perhaps as we lived on his doorstep, we were treated as members of the gang. By courtesy or adoption, the local bullies would always give me curt nods of comradeship. The neighbourhood is so infested by roughs of both sexes that it is feared dangerous for a policeman to work the beat alone. The mob actually hunting and stoning him off the streets.
For 5 years, Thomas Joyce's slogging gang is one of the most feared in Birmingham. But then in 1875, another gang crosses a line when it graduates from fighting rivals to take on the establishment.
7th of March 1875, a riot erupts in this street, Navigation Street, when a mob tried to free a prisoner from 2 policemen. They're pelted with stones and mud. PC Lines comes to help them.
He tries to beat back the crowd with his staff, and the sergeant manages to drag himself away. But then, as one witness put it, they attacked him like rats and somebody stabs him in the neck. He falls, they start kicking him on the ground. Then more police come. They take PC Lines to hospital. It's really difficult for the police to find out who's actually involved in the Navigation Street riot.
This is a collection relating to the murder of PC William Lines, who was stabbed in Navigation Street in 1875. This is believed to be the whistle of PC William Lines. You can see the crucifix attached to the whistle chain there. This is the picture from his funeral. You can see it was very well attended by his fellow officers and members of the public. He was the first police officer to be stabbed to death on duty in Birmingham, and he attended the scene of the riot to help out a fellow officer, and he and a sergeant were both assaulted. He was stabbed behind his ear and he died in hospital 2 weeks later. This is the offender who was deemed to be ultimately responsible for stabbing him, Jeremiah Corkery. And we have a couple of what I presume are commemorative postcards, posters produced at the time, both kind of highlighting the plight of Corkery.
After a trial in which 20-year-old Corkery first pleads his innocence and then confesses his guilt, he's sentenced to hang at Warwick on the 27th of July, 1875.
He rose about 4:30, and from that time until the moment of his execution, his terror and consequent helplessness appeared to rapidly increase. Shortly before 7 o'clock, he was visited by Father Kelly, and he then engaged in religious exercises, the last rites of the Roman Catholic faith. The very beauty of the morning, however, appeared by contrast to intensify the deathly and shocking look of the condemned man. His face was deadly pale, his eyes half opened. He trembled violently, and his knees occasionally seemed almost to give way. On being placed in an upright position, he staggered and would have fallen had not the warders again been vigilant. And in a moment, the drop fell with a dull, heavy sound, and the unhappy murderer's body descended with a swift rush being brought up at the end of the rope with a terrible jerk.
The report on the execution of Thomas Corkery is intended to be moralising, like, this will be your inevitable doom if you commit a crime, a terrible fate awaits you. On the other hand, it's quite voyeuristic and salacious as well, and that is what the Victorian press plays upon. They know this is commercial, they know that people will actually treat this as entertainment.
I'd say a little too much sympathy towards Corkery rather than PC William Lyons, who ultimately lost his life, left a young daughter without a father, a wife with no husband. But there's lots of information and sympathies towards Corkery.
Corkery becomes Birmingham's slang for striking fear into policemen. The city is gaining a reputation for lawlessness. Over the next few years, 2 more police officers are killed, hundreds injured, and what were skirmishes in the streets now look more like full-scale battles.
The range of numbers involved in the fights is quite extreme. You could have, as in 1886, supposedly 2,000 Peaky Blinders slugging it out. This was not just street warfare, it was neighbourhood warfare. They were chucking stones at each other. They were fighting with buckled belts. It went on all afternoon, and police